All right. So, in today's talk, we're going to cover, what exactly is package design? Like when we talk about the business of package design, when we talk about who the stakeholders are and what all is involved, and we're going to unpack that a little bit. All right, so what is packaging design? When we think of packaging design, the primary goal is that it's a vehicle that serves to contain, so the packaging itself. It's a vehicle that serves to contain, protect, transport, dispense, store, identify, and distinguish a product in the marketplace. So that's kind of a lot of roles for a designed package, right? There's a lot of different things that go into this. And also, we think about meeting marketing objectives by distinctively communicating a consumer product's personality or function and generating a sale. So, to communicate to the consumer, and ultimately, we're trying to sell and market a product. Culture and values. So, package design in the market is definitely driven by culture and values because it reveals and reflects the cultural values of the market. When we consider creating a package design, packaging design exists where people with varied cultural backgrounds and values come together. So, we're we have might have a target market, but we also don't want to alienate anyone in the way that we go about selling and communicating our packages on. Because we're in the supermarket, maybe also an online store, retailers, Instagram, whatever. We want to think about being inclusive, and that is tied up in a lot of the ways that you design the package, from using certain colors or not using certain colors, depending on what market you're in. Think about, how colors and images are interpreted here in the United States versus another culture. Think about all of those aspects. And then package design must function as the aesthetic means of communicating to a diverse consumer population. So, taking all of that into account when you think about how a package not only looks, but how it functions as a marketing communication piece. So essentially, as package designers, you have to become an anthropologist, a sociologist, a psychologist, an ethnographer, and a linguist. There's all these different things, little hats that we have to wear when we really cohesively approach holistic package design from all parameters. So, something else to chomp on, over two-thirds of purchase decisions are made at the point of sale as the shopper stands at the shelf or display. So, what exactly does that mean? That means that the point of sale presence, so the packaging and merchandising, what the packaging looks like, to how it sits on the shelf, where it sits on the shelf, has a direct and significant impact on its sales revenue. Okay, so it's not just thinking about a box or a coffee bag. Think of those things that you see in the store, those big cardboard built displays that hold and contain things. That within itself is a decision on how this will set in a store. So, target market factoring into this as well. And we've talked about that before, but in relation to package design, the target market, it's most effective when package design is most effective when a marketer has identified a niche to claim or a specific consumer group to target. And so in this case, you guys become the marketer and the designer because you have to do the research to define who and where is the market share of these products and how do you communicate and sell to them. A clearly defined target market provides a framework that helps determine design strategies and appropriate product communications. So, when we're thinking about target market and developing design for a package, we think about the consumer's values, their preferences, their lifestyles and habits. So think of, if it's a health food product, think of communicating, you have to kind of search that community and learn, what people look for. Think of the gluten-free community. How best do you sell and market product to someone who's gluten-free? Obviously making it very clear that the product is gluten-free, but then it's equally important to communicate the ingredients and how something is made, because that also affects folks that have gluten allergies. packaging design and brand. Okay, if package design is part of a bigger picture and that bigger picture is the brand, then we have to ask what defines a brand. Okay, and we know the brand from the design perspective, but ultimately the brand is about perception, right? It's a person's gut feeling about a product, a service, or a company. And brand identity is developed by companies, but ultimately they're later defined by the audience. So, you can work and work and work to figure out who your brand is and what your brand is, but you're not going to fully figure out how that is received until you put it out into the atmosphere and let consumers take it in and respond to it. So, thinking about again brand identity, that's visual, right? The brand's essential components, the name of the brand colors, symbols, and other design elements. So, here on the screen, we have all different brands of coffee, but visually they are all different, and conceptually, the way they position themselves in the marketplace is all different. And then we take a look at brand promise. And the brand promise essentially is, live up to your claims, right? So it's a marketer's assurance or a guarantee about the product and its claims. And the brand promise should be communicated through the packaging design and brand identity. So, obviously we have here Luden's cough drops. So I see great tasting throat drops. That is a claim, and a promise, but it also tells me what the product is for. And then under that, we see Sue's everyday throat irritation. Boom, that is what this product is going to do. If I use this product consistently, then my throat is going to be a little better. Okay. You'll notice it doesn't say Sue's chronic throat irritation, just every day. So they're being very transparent. Now, this is obviously not a permanent fix, but it is something that you will occasionally use if you have a scratchy throat. Okay, we often see things like, if we're still thinking in the medicine space, we see things like fast acting, quick dissolve, rapid release. Those are attributes, but those are also promises and claims of the product itself. And then perception of that brand promise can be negatively affected. Things like design malfunctions, if the product doesn't dispense or open easily, if the typography is difficult to read, if the product name is hard to pronounce, or if the nature of the product is not clear. If you can't interpret what something is intended to do or even what the product is, then you're not communicating effectively. And that could ultimately make someone else pass by the product and choose something else. Okay, so thinking about touch points of a package design, and this is a before and after design of a Tropicana redesign. So this one, you probably haven't seen this one in a long time. It's definitely changed a little bit since then, but this looks close-ish to what it looks like at one point in time. So the touch points is an element that the consumer comes to identify as an integral part to a specific brand. So visually, when we think of consistent illustrations of use of colors, photographs, typographic design or pattern, and even iconic aspects that the consumers look for when they physically go to reach or purchase the package. So we talked a little bit about this in class. If folks color code their products, think of shampoos. A lot of times those are in different color bottles for specific purposes or hair. If they change the color, if they change anything about it, makes it a little bit hard to find on the shelf. So you start to identify, whether you realize it or not, you start to identify and burn these visual touch points into your brain. All right, principles of design. We will cover this in the next segment. But thinking about how all of these pieces come together.